What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Feud podcast. I am Stoned Arrow, and today we are going over Week 2 Thursday Night Football. It's going to be the Washington Football Team versus the New York Giants. We're going to go over some DraftKings over-unders, who we have as our biggest stars of the night, and a couple of other hot topics like, is Saquon going to be playing at all, or is he just going to sit back and do nothing like he did last week? Who knows? Before we get into things today, I want to shout out our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are the Fantasy Feud on all platforms. And if you are listening to this on Spotify, we are on YouTube as well. Mason, how's it going today, bud?
It's going really, really good. I'm in a great mood right now. How we doing, everybody?
And before I send things over to Paul, I'll just let him kick things off and start off with his biggest star of the night. So how's it going, Paul?
Not too bad. I'll be doing a whole lot better tomorrow night when the game's actually going. But I kind of want to take a little bit of a detour, I guess, as for my star of the night. I'm not going to go traditional. I'm not going to pick any of the easy ones.
That wasn't part of the script.
Primarily Antonio Gibson. But I'm going to go with the Washington defense. Specifically Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I know we kind of already talked about it in one of our first episodes when we were discussing the NFC East. I had brought up the tidbit about Montez Sweat and Chase Young trying to go for the sack record that was held by the Vikings back in like 1989 or something. Chase Young didn't record a sack last week. Montez Sweat got one. But I foresee Chase Young having a repeat of Von Miller's week last week against the Giants. He had 2 sacks. He had 3 tackles for a loss. And I just think the Predator is going to feast on Danny Dimes this week. So if you have their defense, it's a must start for sure. Again, I know this is more fantasy that if you have – it only really matters, I guess, to you if you have IDPs in your league. In one of the leagues that me and Mason are in, Stone as well, you have the IDPs, and I have Chase Young as one of my DNs. So I'm expecting a huge day from him, and I can't wait for it.
Essentially what Paul is saying, guys, is his star of the game is not a player on the Giants.
That is correct.
Mason, who's your star of the night, man?
Well, I don't want to butcher this like I did last week, but I chose running back last week. That made me want to choose a wide receiver this week, but I'm not going to. I'm going to hold true. I'm going to go with my boy, Antonio Gibson. I think because of the situation, I don't think it's going to be a huge scoring game. I think that the Washington Football Team are going to have to rely on Antonio Gibson to help move the ball down the field and score. He had 20 attempts last week. He had 90 yards. I think his workload only increases with Ryan Hipspatrick going down. So take that as you will, but I say Antonio Gibson is going to be the star of the night.
So I agree with you, but I have 2 stars of the night because, I don't have to re-elaborate what you said on Antonio Gibson. I think it's pretty obvious that he's probably the guy to start in everything, like DraftKings, MVP slots, stuff like that. He's probably the guy, the easy choice. I'm going to give a co-star to Logan Thomas, tight end there.
I like it.
Because Taylor Heineke and him have had a pretty solid connection whenever Heineke played last year. So he had 3 catches, 30 yards, and a touchdown in the first game. The touchdown definitely saved his fantasy performance, but I think with Heineke playing the whole game now, he's going to be a larger part of that offense. So I think Logan Thomas is a safe bet there.
I'm honestly just super excited to watch Taylor Heineke play. Like, thinking about him, like, thinking what he can do. Like, players like that just get me excited. They get me going. Got a little dopamine release. I'm just like, let's go. I wish the best for this guy. But do you want to transition to our next topic?
Well, yeah, but I was going to say Scary Terry. He was giving all the credit in the world to Taylor Heineke in the offseason, saying there's no – I can't remember exactly what the quote was, but it was something like, I would love to have this guy as a quarterback in my future, essentially.
Yeah.
said he's a leader, born leader, and works his butt off every
Butt
single. He works his butt off all the time. So I like him
That's
a lot.
awesome.
Yeah. So
I
he's at a over under of 250.5 passing yards. What do you guys think of him going over or under that? This is all on DraftKings, by the way. I said this at the beginning, but I'm just reiterating.
I'm going to go really conservative with this, just because, well, I mean, Washington, their football, or not Washington, the Giants' defense were middle of the pack last week against Denver. I do believe Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than Heineke. I do believe they have a better surrounding cast right now. So I think that, and them being middle of the pack, I think Taylor Heineke gets less than 250.5 yards.
That's a pretty interesting take. I have no idea what Taylor Heineke averaged last year when he was a starter. I do know that James Bradbury, the number one corner for the Giants, I think he's very underrated in the league. I think he's probably a top 5 corner. So depending on who, I guess, sees him throughout the game, they might kind of. I don't know. To me, it's kind of a toss-up. He could get the 250 if he relies more on Antonio Gibson and Logan Thomas, per se, rather than trying to go after Scary Terry and Diami Brown and trying to go deep with it, I guess. So I think if he has the quantity rather than the quality of the deep pass to the quantity of the dump down and the check downs, I think he could probably get to 250. But like Mason said, this might not be a high-scoring game. It might rely on the run, both teams. So, I mean, it's kind of a toss-up, but I would say he can I'll say he'll get it. Get the 250.
I'm gonna pull up his stats that he's played so far. In 2020, one regular season game he played, he was 12 of 19 for 137 yards and 1 touchdown. In last week's game, when he filled in for Fitzpatrick, he was, give me just a second, 11 for 15. He had a 73% completion rating, 122 yards and 1 touchdown. Solid. Not crazy yards, though. In the playoffs,
I mean,
he did
they don't have a lot of
better.
attempts either.
Yeah. So if he does have a lot of attempts, we'll see what happens. But I'm going to stick the conservative route and say that he will be under. You mentioned a very interesting name, Diami Brown. With Curtis Samuel being on IR, what do you guys think about his potential? He played a lot of the game last week.
I mean, so I didn't watch a whole lot of the game. I watched a little bit of it here and there, just a couple parts. But I really like Diami Brown. I don't know how many targets he's seen. I don't know how many catches he had last week.
4 targets, 1 catch, but his snap count was 93%.
Okay, so I mean, he's out there. He's basically playing the whole game.
Yep.
And I mean, he's going to have the opportunities. He's going to have chances. And with Taylor Heineke, I mean, if he spreads the ball rather than targeting just one player, I think Diami Brown can be a huge sleeper for this team. His last year at North Carolina, crazy.
Yeah.
He put up huge numbers, and he's a little bit on the smaller side, but he kind of resembles Scary Terry a little bit.
Yeah.
He's not a big body receiver. He's kind of a fast guy. He can catch the balls over the middle in your crossing routes, your ins, your outs. And he can make players miss. He's fast. So he might be able to take one of those passes, maybe a bubble screen or something, or wide receiver screen, put blockers in front of him, and we can see him go 50, 60 yards for a touchdown. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but he does have that big play potential.
Heineke, last year and this year included, I guess, he's been a pretty smart decision maker when he throws the ball. So it makes me think of people that are at the receiver position won't get as many targets, and it'll be mostly Logan Thomas and Antonio Gibson. So with Fitzmagic going down, I'm actually not as big of a fan of McLaurin anymore. I don't know if you guys would agree with that.
I feel the same way, but I do believe Terry McLaurin's talent will still prevail. I think he's going to be – I'm going to keep starting him in all my leagues. I'm going to hold on to him. I'm not going to trade him. I'm going to put faith in the guy. Now, that's just pure faith. It's not based off of statistical analysis or anything.
He's
like
just
that.
really good. So
he had 4 catches, 4 targets last week, 62 yards. Was not very impressive, but I think I just trust the guy so much. I love him. I'm going to hang on to him, start him every week.
We know what Terry McLaurin can do.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily if he can do it, it's when he's going to do it, in my opinion. He's going to see passes. He's going to see targets. He's the number one in that offense. Like I said, he might be the one that gets covered by James Bradbury for most of the game. I'm not too familiar with Bradbury being favoring one side of the defense rather than moving around following the best receiver that they have, like a lot of the top corners do. But if he does kind of move around, and maybe I would slightly not believe that Terry McLaurin is going to have a huge game. But again, don't let that sway you from keeping him, trying to trade him. Don't trade him. Stick with him. We know what he can do as long as he has a healthy quarterback who can throw the ball, and Taylor Heineke can do that. So I think it might take a couple weeks to get to the point where we see his true ceiling of what he's going to bring every week. But I have no worries about starting Terry McLaurin or playing him every week.
I like how you said don't trade Terry McLaurin, and I'm sitting over here smiling because I offered somebody a trade in the league with involving me getting rid of Terry McLaurin.
For who? Who's it for?
So this guy is really weak on quarterback, and I have Russell Wilson on my bench. And I was like, okay, that would be a good bait. And then he's really weak at receiver, so I was like, Terry McLaurin. And then I threw Dallas Goedert in there because he doesn't have a backup tight end, and I just shot for the stars and said Travis Kelce and just see what he says. Probably no.
I mean, honestly, not
what would the trade be? 3 for 1?
Yeah, 3 for 1. I'm not getting anybody other than Kelce.
I mean, I don't think most people will take that because obviously
it's Kelce.
But
I don't know. It all depends on how.
It's a fair trade.
Go ahead.
No, it's a fair trade offer. I mean, you see a lot of leaks.
So I don't think his quarterback position's weak necessarily, but this is a league where people don't know what they're doing as much. And when you're starting quarterback as Ryan Tannehill after week 1, they're probably panicking a little bit.
Yeah, good point.
and their number one receiver is Deontay Johnson after week 1. So I was like, okay, Russell Wilson and Terry McLaurin. I mean, that's and Dallas.
I'd honestly think about that. So, if you sent me that, I would have a hard time. I would sit there and think about it.
I mean,
and that's what I was going to say. I feel like a lot of it just comes down to your roster construction, who your starting quarterback is, how actually weak you are at wide receiver, like Stone said. If he doesn't have serviceable backup tight end, Dallas Goedert, he's nothing to scoff at. Yeah. Now, I don't fully have faith in Dallas Goedert, but I mean, kind of balled out a little bit this past Sunday. But again, your claims, we'll jump back to that from our last episode. He played the Atlanta Falcons defense. We all know that Jalen Hurts looked good, but I mean, again, that's really hard to kind of pass up. If you're giving up Travis Kelce in that aspect, it almost seems like Dallas Goedert's going to have to be your starting tight end at that point. And I don't know if I would like that.
Yes. So before we get back on track with the actual topics here, I just wanted to point out that this trade is in an 8-team league, by the way. And my starting team, my team is Kyler Murray. Who are my running backs? Alvin Kamara, Antonio Gibson, and Austin Eckler. And then I can't remember my receivers completely, but I know I have.
That changes things.
Well, my flex receiver was Chris Godwin this week, so I was like, okay, just put him at receiver, plug Travis Kelce in at tight end, and then on my flex I throw Austin Eckler in there because I didn't start him last week.
Yeah, if he baits for it, take it. 8-team league, definitely a lot different because there's a lot more talent to go around each team.
Yep. All right, so back on topic here. We're going to go away from the Washington football team's pass game. We're going to go to their rush game. I think it's pretty clear what me and Mason are going to say here. Antonio Gibson over under 67.5 rushing yards. I don't even understand how that is the over-under, considering he played a significantly better defense last week and had 90 rushing yards.
Yeah.
So if that's my answer right there. It's a joke of an over-under in my opinion.
Maybe they stacked the box on on Gibson
I don't even
because
care.
maybe they're like, I don't care either. I'm just saying maybe that's why they know something. DraftKings is smart, but smarter than us.
Not
But
true.
yes, I'm going Antonio Gibson over 67.5 rushing yards. I bet he gets close to 100 again. Paul?
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I actually think he's going to top 100.
Daddy.
I think this New York Giants defense not very good. I mean, they gave up a 70-yard run late in the game for a touchdown to Melvin Gordon. Washed. So, I mean, if one false move or he gets past one defender, Antonio Gibson, he's going to take to the house. I foresee him going over 100. And I know this isn't included in it, but on top of that, I'm going to throw down he has at least 2 touchdowns, whether that be 2 rushing or at least 1 receiving and 1 rushing, because I think he's going to be heavily involved in the pass game as well.
He did have 5 targets last week, and he was one of the Washington Football Team's top target leader.
That's why he is my star A of the week with Logan Thomas right behind him.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. Let's talk Giants since we talked the football team the entire time. Let's talk Kenny Gallaudet, over under 55.5 receiving yards. He had a pretty good debut there with the Giants last week. So what do you guys think he's going to do this week?
I'll go. So Kenny Gallaudet actually surprised me last week. He did better than I thought he would. He had 6 targets. He had 4 catches, 64 yards. Came out of the gates with a solid performance on a new football team. The star of that show, that wide receiving core, I believe is Sterling Shepard. I believe he had a 93% snap share, 25% target share. He killed it. But do I think, what's his name, Kenny Gallaudet is going to get over 55.5 yards? Yes, I do think he's going to get over 55.5 yards. I bet he's right around 60 again, maybe 65.
I think he's going to finish with probably like 15, 16 fantasy points. I could see him getting 70 yards, 8 catches, just anything in the realm of that. And then if he gets a touchdown, he gets a touchdown. I don't know if I really see it against this Washington defense. I could see them just not even allowing a touchdown if Denver's defense didn't let him do it.
Yeah. They're tough.
And that's the point that I was going to bring up, Stone. That Denver secondary is amazing. I wouldn't say amazing. They're very good. They're very talented. My boy Kyle Fuller's over there now. Hate that we cut him. But, I mean, he still put up 64 yards on 4 catches against a very, very solid secondary in the league. I'd say probably top 10, top 7. And I just think he's going to do it again. Washington Football Team, their secondary is pretty solid with Landon Collins heading that in the back half. But I think he kind of showed that he still has that potential to go up for the deep ball, to go up and out jump defenders. We've seen it against Denver. He had a catch that I think it was like 3 feet in front of him or something. He just snagged it out of the air, pulled it in, and that was one of his biggest plays of the day. So I definitely foresee him going over 55. I think I'm going to kind of lean with you, Stone. I see him getting around maybe that 7-8 catches for about 70, 80 yards, somewhere in there. And again, like you said, could have a touchdown, maybe not, just because of that secondary. But I do believe he'll get one in the red zone. Any dimes, whether it's garbage time or whatever. I think they'll get into the red zone at some point, and he's going to target him because he's a big body. He can go up. He can high point. We know what type of receiver Kenny Gallaudet is, and I do think he can score a touchdown in this game.
We're really looking at Kenny Gallaudet versus Sterling Shepard in this game, who you want to start between the two. And I think because of Washington's front 7 and the pass rush that they're going to be having in this game, I think Sterling Shepard might be the safer play over Kenny Gallaudet just because he catches shorter routes, and Gallaudet is more of that not Hail Mary, but like he plays a lot of deep routes because he's very good at
mid to deep,
balls.
yeah.
So I think the safer play is Sterling Shepard, but I still think Kenny Gallaudet is going to be an all right play. I think he'll have over 10 fantasy points this week, which is
I'm gonna plug him in some of my lineups just to see what happens.
Yep. So now let's talk tight end in New York. We got Kyle Rudolph here, starting for the injured Evan Ingram. He had 5 targets last week and had a massive 2 receptions for 4 yards. But the thing that stands out to me is, can you plug and play him this week? He had 5 targets with Evan Ingram involved in the offense. He could see more and probably should see more considering the defense he's playing against. So I don't know. I think that he's an interesting guy if you're very, very weak in the tight end position. That Kyle Rudolph might be a guy you could grab off the waivers this week and throw him in there, and he might be able to get you a touchdown and 10 fantasy points.
Kyle Rudolph has always been that guy on the Vikings. It's a wash. Maybe he'll get you 10 points or maybe he'll get you 2. I love the dude. He showed success in the NFL. That being said, I don't think he's going to make a splash. Too many mouths to feed on that offense. Now, like Stone said, he can go out there and get a touchdown. He can get 3 catches or 30 yards, whatever it's going to be. If you're in desperation mode for tight end and it's just like a coin flip, it's like, who am I going to grab off the waiver wire? Take a chance on him. But other than that, I'm staying away from him.
You don't have any tight ends? You need a waiver wire guy? You want to watch the Thursday night football game for a reason? Go ahead and grab him and throw him in there.
Yeah. Come on, Kyle Rudolph.
All right, so speak to your point a little bit, Mason, where you just talked about him having success over in Minnesota for a number of years as their number 1 tight end. There's also a reason that they cut him in the offseason. He's not that good anymore. He's, to me, a lot more of a blocking tight end than he's going to go out there and be able to get downfield, make those catches over the middle. And he grabbed 3-4 catches in the game. Yeah, I think so. But also at the same time, I'm one of those people that's in desperation mode for tight ends.
Yeah, because you don't draft any. You don't
2 quarterback, 2 tight end league. I have rostered right now Jawan Johnson,
of course you
Dan
do.
Arnold, OJ Howard, a bunch of nobodies.
Listen to me, bud. You should listen to me.
I'm still not going to go
tight end
after.
seriously.
I took
I know
Noah
you're not.
Fant.
That's why you're
I
going to
don't
lose.
think
It's
he's
okay.
going to do anything.
I took Noah Fant like the 13th in that draft. That seems like it might be a huge steal.
Yeah.
You know what
Noah
I was
Fant
doing in the
can be
13th
solid.
round? I was drafting Buda Baker and my defensive players.
I wasn't worrying about
The
that.
Yeah,
broke
buddy.
one and Devin White, I think, in like round 7 and 8, back to
Paul's
back.
just totally against drafting tight ends. I'm not.
I mean, I'm
Like,
not,
if
but
you guys listen to me, tight
if-
ends in this day and age of fantasy football, tight ends are going to help win you championships. So if you're not going to draft the guy
I agree-
early, you
I
better
agree to
draft
that
somebody
point.
like Noah Fant.
I agree to that point. But if you miss out on Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, or George Kittle, I think a lot of the tight ends is kind of a wash at that point. I'm not saying all of them are. They're all going to produce. They're going to put up numbers. But to me, it's you can find somebody in the 12th round, a Tyler Higbee. You can find maybe a Gerald Everett who's going to be
Then
more
you
of a
should've
touchdown
drafted
vulture
Tyler
than a
Higbee.
reception vulture.
But you didn't.
But I mean, you're going to find those tight ends in and out. Noah Fant in the 9th, between the 9th and the 11th round. To me, it's just sometimes look at a certain player like Jamal Williams. Be like, hey, I think Jamal Williams is better. I think I'll forego a tight end and I'll have a flex player that I can put in every week. Because I know if I don't have one of the top 3 tight ends, I have a chance of being outscored every single week with whatever tight end I have. So it's not to say I don't.
Listen,
they're-
I got Jamal Williams in almost all my leagues, and I still have good tight ends. So
Again,
I
but
don't
I'm not
take it.
saying. What I'm saying is, I find other players that I'd rather have over tight ends.
I know
So,
how you play
because
fantasy
if
football.
I don't have one of the top ones, then I'm not gonna go spend
all right, I'm
8th
just
round
giving you
pick on a
shit.
Noah Fant or somebody else.
Back on
So,
track. Back on
Let's,
track.
let's put things short. What Paul was trying to say to everybody was he doesn't draft tight ends, so he's starting Kyle Rudolph this week.
No, I just said I'm not starting him. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole at this point.
All right, let's move on.
You know how bad my tight ends are. OJ Howard started for me last week. 0 targets, 0 catches, 0.0 fantasy points.
Hey, all I'm saying is Cal Rudolph had 2 catches for 4 yards. Should have started him.
Hey, guys, I'm sure you guys just got the update. Sleeper, which is honestly the best platform for getting out news. I get news from Sleeper faster than any other platform. They said from one of their beat reporters in New York, Barkley is unlikely to be unleashed versus the Washington Football Team.
That's just right on cue because that was our next topic, was talking about Saquon and if he's going to go off. And
beautiful.
Suddenly he's no longer in my DraftKings lineup.
Yeah.
Because if he's not unleashed, what are you doing with him, right? Like he's meant to be on your team to be like your game changer, and
it sucks. You had to draft him in the first round this year. I was late to a draft room one day, and they picked Saquon Barkley for me at like pick 5. I was like, I would have rather had like 5 other different people, but I still think he's gonna be fine. But he had 10 touches last week, 10 carries. He had 26 yards. Denver's defense is kind of stout. I did think he'd do a little more than that. So I am slightly concerned for Saquon, not for the year. He's going to need more touches just to get going. He's got to shake the rust off. And with this being said, I'm probably benching Saquon Barkley in my league. And, I mean, Washington's front 7, they're stout. They're not going to play around.
With this news that just broke about him not being unleashed, I'm going to have to say the same thing. I'm probably going to bench him in a league and start Tyson Williams over him in my running back position.
Yeah, totally understandable. I think we just kind of play that at least week 2, and then we'll reevaluate for week 3. You know.
Yep.
Paul, what do you think about that?
I agree with both of you guys on that. But I mean, you also have to think. I know coming back from ACL tears is a completely different thing from what it was 10 years ago in the NFL. It seems like ever since Adrian Peterson did it, he came back in like 7 months from an ACL. He came out, was like the MVP. I think he almost ran for 2,000 yards, or he did run for 2,000. Just like ACL is almost like an ankle sprain nowadays. It's, you're going to miss a year, but you can come back. I'm just saying, you know what I'm saying? It's so much more common now than what it used to be 10 years ago, you know?
Yeah.
And you had an ACL tear 10 years ago, just like, oh, good Lord, like, is he done for his career? Now you're seeing them happen year in and year out between receivers, running backs, quarterbacks. And that's what I'm saying. When you come back, you're going to be rusty. And that's exactly what we saw. I think it was week 2 against Chicago when he tore it last year. So that was 14 games right there that he missed, that he didn't have any time on the field. Now he comes back. I don't think he was available, like full go at the beginning of OTAs. He might have got, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, medical clearance in the middle of like training camp or something. But you know the Giants were going to throw him out there in the preseason games to give him a bunch of touches to see what he can do. I mean, with his first game back playing a great defense in Denver, that was to be expected. And like you said, Mason, it sucks that you have to take him in the first round if you want him. There's not many chances that he's going to slide to the second just because of his name.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I feel like it's one of those situations, pump the brakes, like you said, sit him on your bench for week 2 against Washington, see what happens, reevaluate. And I do think that he's going to become Saquon of old as the season progresses. He starts to get his legs back under him. Giant tree trunks that he has, those calves that are like the size of normal people's biceps, like, or he's gonna go out
bodies. No,
it's probably
but
more
listen,
accurate.
I think his workload is going to build up. I think he's going to be close to Saquon of, like Paul said, old. His rookie year, he went out and got like 2,000 all-purpose yards. Like, the man was a beast. And the Giants are being smart. They don't care about your fantasy football team. They care about their star running back, and they're going to preserve him, and they're going to make sure he is safe and ready to rock. And we just got to sit back and wait.
All right, so let's close things off today talking about who we think are going to win the game this week and what the score is going to be. I just want to point out, I don't remember what my Thursday night score was last week, but it was pretty close with Tampa Bay beating Dallas. I think I had like 34 to like 27 or something like that. So right in the ballpark. And I'm going to crack it off, and I'm going to say the Washington football team wins this game, and they're going to win it 27-13.
I like that. That's bold. I am totally guessing when I say this. I think that the Giants have a chance to come out and put up on Washington. Now, I know their defense is good, but let me just take a flyer on this. I'm going to say New York wins. Sorry, New York Giants 24, Washington football team 21.
I like that pick. And I was kind of leaning on the same side of the fence as you, Mason, just because last week, seeing how the offense came out, the defense, I guess, both sides of the ball for Washington and what they did against the Chargers. The Chargers are a better football team than the New York Giants, but this is a division rivalry game.
Yeah.
These two teams hate each other. They're both 0-1 at this point right now in the season. They're trying to get that first win. But I do think I'm going to agree with Stone. I believe that Washington is going to pull this one out. And I wouldn't say as close of a game as what we saw Monday night or between Tampa Bay and Dallas last week. But I would say it's probably going to be 31-19. I know 19 is kind of a random score, weird score.
Interesting.
It's like
I'll change
field goals
that.
and a touchdown.
21.
That's
You
what
want
I
to
was
give
trying to
21?
think. I'm gonna go 20. I'm gonna say
All right.
31-20.
That's better.
Washington football team.
Gotcha. So
I'm the upset this week.
yeah,
Let's go.
All of us start off 1-0, and now Mason is officially 1-1 after this week. So bold predictions.
I would
there.
say that I was fair. I was very wrong last week when I said that Tampa Bay. I think I predicted like over a 2-touchdown win or something like that by the Bucks. But yeah,
Well,
I was right there with you. I said it was going to be a blowout. Stone said it was going to be a shootout, one way or the other, probably close to 30 points for each.
yeah.
He definitely took that one over both of us.
I'm just so excited. I'm actually really excited to watch this football game tomorrow night.
I
just really am.
As underwhelming as it may seem because the Giants are a part of it, it actually is going to be a pretty good game in my opinion. I'm predicting it to be more of not a blowout, but like Washington handily takes the win, 27-13. I think the Giants will get a couple field goals, one touchdown maybe to Kenny G, and then I think Antonio Gibson is just going to go off for Washington. I think he's going to get 2 touchdowns, just like Paul said. And I think Logan Thomas will sneak one in there as well.
Let's go.
So that's going to do it all for the Fantasy Feud today. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this on YouTube. And if you're on Spotify, go check us out on YouTube. Why not, right? It's really easy, and you can just go ahead. You can see all the videos we have in the past. Click that little subscribe button. It helps us out. We want to keep pushing this stuff out for you guys. Comment down below. What do you think the score of this game is going to be? Do you think that Mason is out of his mind for picking the Giants? Because I sure do. Mason, do you have anything to say before we head out of here?
Fantasy Feud out, baby. Let's go. It's football season.
And Paul, since I always say Mason first, I don't know why.
No, I mean, same as what you just said, Stone. Check us out on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Check us out on Spotify. Listen to our podcast there as well. We're going to keep trying to put out the same type of content for you guys week in and week out. We're going to go over the Thursday night games. We're going to go over the Sunday night previews for you. We're just going to keep bringing all the content to you guys, so keep coming back and listening.
Yep. Thank you for tuning in, guys. And like Mason says, Fantasy Feud out, baby.